Have you ever felt like someone was watching you, even when you were completely alone? I don't mean that everyday paranoia when you're walking home at night and convince yourself that footsteps are following you. I'm talking about that heavy, undeniable pressure, like a pair of unseen eyes pressing into the back of your neck, forcing you to turn, even though deep down you don't want to see what's there. I used to think stories like that were exaggerated, campfire tales, ghost stories to scare kids. But one night during my senior year, I learned that some things are not just stories. And the worst part? Sometimes what you see doesn't stay in the moment, it follows you. It lingers in places it doesn't belong. And no matter how much you try to convince yourself it wasn't real, it comes back. It all started on a Friday night, the kind of night that felt routine at first. In my small hometown, Friday nights only ever meant one thing: football games. The whole town seemed to gather under the stadium lights, not because we had much else to do, but because that was our version of entertainment. For me and my friends, though, the game itself was just background noise. We were more interested in the thrill of being out late, away from parents, and doing things we probably shouldn't. That night it was me, my best friend JJ, and two girls we'd been hanging out with, Kayla and Ashley. We were seniors, restless and maybe a little reckless. Before heading to the bleachers, we parked in the far lot behind the school, where the woods pressed right up against the fence. We laughed, we joked, and we shared drinks we weren't supposed to have, hiding them in water bottles before walking toward the noise of the game. Nothing about that moment felt unusual. It was just another night. But looking back, I realized that's how these things always begin. Ordinary, almost boring, right before everything changes. The first hint that something wasn't right came as the game was winding down. Our team was losing badly and most of the crowd had already left. JJ, Kayla, Ashley, and I stayed behind, joking and stumbling toward the field, drunk enough to feel invincible. The stadium lights flickered and then went out completely, plunging everything into darkness except for the pale moonlight spilling across the grass. JJ, always the thrill-seeker, suggested we sneak into the woods next to the field. The girls hesitated, but that hesitation was exactly what made it fun for us. We ran ahead, laughing, hiding behind trees and daring them to follow. That's when I saw it. Between two tall pines, barely visible in the moonlight, a figure stood. Tall, much taller than any person should be. Pitch black, like a shadow stretched into a shape, and it was facing us. I froze, my heart hammering. Then it spoke, a woman's voice, calm, almost polite. "You kids shouldn't be in here." The words sent a chill down my spine. There were no footsteps, no movement in the leaves. It didn't approach like a normal person. And yet, it was there. Big. Solid. Impossible. JJ grabbed my arm, and without saying a word, we ran, calling for the girls to follow. By the time we found Kayla and Ashley, our laughter had vanished, replaced by a tight knot of fear. JJ told them to just follow us straight to the car, but the images of that towering figure stayed in my mind. It wasn't just the size. It was the way it moved. Not like a person walking, more like it glided silently, almost effortlessly. We drove away as quickly as we could, but even from the car, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The woods looked calm, quiet, but my stomach told me otherwise. That night, as we hung out at JJ's afterward, the thought kept replaying in my head. Why would an older woman be in those woods alone at night in a place no one ever goes? Fast forward to summer. I was working at the same school as a custodian, just a teenager trying to earn a little extra money. The building was empty most days, except for me and a few other workers. One afternoon while mowing the courtyard, I spotted her. A woman at an upstairs window, maybe 65 or so, her curly hair framing a face I couldn't make out clearly in the sunlight's glare. I waved. She didn't move. I ran inside, trying to tell my boss. We searched the hallway, all the classrooms locked and dark. No one was there. My mind tried to rationalize it, maybe a prank, a reflection, anything. But the unease stayed. That same voice echoed in my head. "You shouldn't be here." Later that summer, I was tasked with mopping the upstairs hallways, going classroom by classroom. The sun had set hours ago, and the school was silent except for the echo of my mop against the tile. I had my radio on, trying to drown out the emptiness, when I heard it. A woman's voice, clear and deliberate, coming from one of the classrooms. "Young man." My blood ran cold. I turned off the radio and checked every room, every desk, every corner. Empty. Nothing. The hairs on my arms stood straight up, and I felt my heart racing in a way that made it impossible to think clearly. Every logical explanation slipped away. I ran downstairs to tell my boss, insisting someone was up there. He followed me, but once again the hallways were empty. He told me to take the day off, that I probably just needed sleep. But deep down, I knew what I had heard wasn't imagined. It was the same presence from that night at the football field, the same impossibly tall, silent, and terrifying figure. For the first time, I understood that some things follow you. Some things don't belong to the world you know, and they can't be reasoned with. After that summer, I couldn't shake the feeling that the school itself had been changed for me. I avoided the math hallway entirely, refusing to go near it. Every time I walked past the woods behind the football field, I felt that same gaze, as if someone or something was still there, watching. I began to think about that night with JJ and the girls, and suddenly the pieces fit together. The towering woman in the woods, the voice in the classroom. What if they were the same presence? The same entity had been following, observing, and testing us, stretching across the boundaries of place and time. It left me with more questions than answers. Why her? Why the school? And most of all, why me? Ever since then, I've believed wholeheartedly. My old high school is haunted by the spirit of an older woman, and nothing else makes sense. Even now, years later, I can't walk past an empty school hallway without feeling her presence. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I can see that towering figure between the trees, silent, watching. And I can still hear her voice, soft but commanding. "You shouldn't be here." The strangest part is knowing I wasn't the only one who could have seen her. If you've ever felt eyes on the back of your neck, if you've ever heard a whisper in a room where no one should be, maybe you've crossed paths with something that doesn't belong, something that waits unseen, patient, and impossible to ignore. So next time you think you're alone, listen carefully, because some things don't disappear when you leave the room. They follow you long after the lights go out.